Hey there, and welcome to the People Who Help People podcast. This is the spot for HR and people ops pros who are all about building better businesses by putting people first. We chat with founders and experts who've been there, done that, and are generous enough to share what actually works. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello again. Today I'm happy to be speaking with Katie Stargardter, an innovative HR leader and principal consultant with Pivot HR Services, who has nearly 20 years of senior and executive experience across private, nonprofit, and public sectors. Katie specializes in aligning people programs with organizational goals, with deep expertise spanning strategic HR planning, culture and engagement, employee and labor relations, inclusion, performance management, and leadership development. In this episode, Leveraging AI in HR Consulting, Katie shares how she and the Pivot HR team are integrating AI into practical, people-centric HR solutions to drive better decisions, better workplaces, and better outcomes for their clients. Welcome to the podcast, Katie.
That's a mouthful. Thanks. Thanks so much, Greg.
You're welcome, Katie. So, got to admit, AI helped me write that introduction. I went into Perplexity Pro and I said, I'm interviewing Katie on my podcast. Help me out. And I pointed it at your LinkedIn bio and I pointed it at Pivot HR Services. So I'm glad that it rang true because that's what we're talking about today. How do we leverage AI to do what we do every day? So Katie, tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you to Pivot HR Services.
Yeah, I think in my career, I've always been preparing for consulting and deliberately made decisions to work across various sectors and industries so that I would have a well-rounded HR background. And I've always known that consulting was going to be where I would land at this stage in my career. The managing director, the founder of Pivot HR, Robin Turnell, we met about 6 years ago. She was always in the back of my head of somebody that I definitely wanted to work with, and the rest is history.
Awesome. So you've known Robin for 6 years, and you thought, ooh, someday I'd like to work with Robin. But you mentioned I've always been preparing for consulting. Why do you say that? Other than thinking I'd like to work with Robin?
Yeah, I think I love the novelty and I love the diversity of work. So it's really nice to not know which clients you're going to work with and obtain new clients and new work and different organizations and be exposed to such a large and exciting complement of work. And that was always something I was interested in. So I specifically varied tasks, I varied responsibilities so that I would be prepared for that diversity.
I enjoy that too. Helping clients across a spectrum of industries and maturity states.
Yes.
With whatever the current problem is at hand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you felt well prepared. And how long have you been with Pivot HR?
About a year. It feels new and not new at the same time. I think the principles of HR are really transferable, but it's been probably the best year of my career for sure. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Now, I think when we were speaking in advance, you mentioned that you're one of the more technical people at Pivot HR, and you're helping Pivot HR, if I can be a little corny here, pivot in this age of AI to incorporating AI into service delivery, or I should say consulting service delivery. Tell me a little bit about your interests, your expertise, and some of the early successes.
Yeah, I think throughout my entire career, I've kind of been known as the innovator or the change maker or the person that's looking for effectiveness and efficiency. So naturally, I was really drawn to AI. And luckily, I'm in an environment where that's fully supported and leveraged. So I think just utilizing those natural skills of curiosity, I've been integrating that into the organization, but also it's a priority for our organization. So the founder of Pivot is very much so ingraining AI into not just our culture, but also into our work. And so it's an offering that we provide to our clients, and this isn't going away anytime soon. So if I can provide the technical support to the team and our leader can be really deliberate in incorporating this into our strategy, then I think that's a really, really great synergy.
I think you've reflected well where a lot of firms are at right now. We know we want to incorporate it not only into how we deliver or how we work, but then also into the work we're supporting at our clients. So, where are you spending more time right now?
Yeah, I think we as a firm, we're spending more time in how do we integrate it. And what we're finding with clients is that there's mixed reviews on AI. There's still a lot of nervousness and risk aversion around incorporating AI. And so we see some organizations that are full steam ahead and they're really playing around with it and trialing, and then other organizations that have rules on not allowing it or it being banned from computers. And so really, really varied reactions to how we can support organizations. I think where we're at now with services to clients is really around policy development. How do you ensure that there are parameters within your organization and containers of what you need to think about when you're implementing AI? So it's from a compliance perspective, but we're also thinking about it from a change management perspective. How do we assist organizations with the change? Because it is change and it's new and change is scary. And so that's definitely an area we can help with. Strategic planning. I think the world has fundamentally shifted. And so if organizations aren't including AI integration as part of a strategic planning session, they might be missing out on amazing opportunities for business development. So that's another area where we leverage. And then ultimately, future state, I think we would like to assist organizations with its adoption. I don't think we're quite there yet, though.
Okay. And I want to break that down a little bit further. Assist with adoption enterprise wide or within the HR teams doing HR things?
I think within the HR teams doing HR things, though, from a strategic planning perspective, that would be enterprise wide in terms of what that strategic planning looks like as an overall 3 to 5 year strategy. And how do you break that down into operational plans and even individual goals cascading so that the entire organization has a focus on this changed world of AI?
Got it. So it sounds like, from Katie's perspective, you've always been curious, you've always been innovative, so it's easy for you to see how AI can be incorporated into the, let's call it the average or typical client's HR shop.
Yeah.
But we meet them where they're at, and you're finding the early adopters and the folks that are a little bit hesitant or
Mm-hmm.
perhaps
Mm-hmm.
not as curious and innovative as you, and
Yeah.
trying to bring them along.
Yes.
Okay, good. Good summary. Okay, now talk about internal to the firm, because this podcast, The People Who Help People, is
Mm-hmm.
where we talk to each other as those with HR consultancies and people operations focused firms. Talk about how you're incorporating it into how you operate as a firm, or how you grow, or how you plan yourselves.
Yeah, I think we're very playful and
Okay.
deliberate about how we use AI. We have built-in meetings to talk about its use. We share practices, so it's part of our conversation as colleagues. I think the way that we use it differs, but I can say that I use it across every functional area. So, for example, what comes to mind is investigation. And as you know, investigations are very time consuming. There's often multiple allegations, hundreds of documents of evidence, and how do you really sort that? So we leverage AI from a couple of perspectives. One is note taking. So when we're having meetings with witnesses, respondents, instead of focusing on frantically trying to take notes, which you can never really keep up with, we leverage technology as for note taking. I have yet to experience anybody who said, no, please don't record me. Everybody has been quite cooperative. I explain it's for the purpose of note taking. It really just helps me. And what that allows us to do in the investigation process is focus more on that the environment we're creating for the person that we're interviewing. How are we creating safety? How are we being empathetic? These are really heightened circumstances. No one feels great going through these processes. So that time becomes really deliberate about that the experience of that person and the humanity of that person rather than ticky-tacky note-taking. So that's sort of the first way that we would use it. And then, as you mentioned, Notebook LM, it's really this confidential avenue for us to upload hundreds of documents and say, tell us what's relevant and what's not relevant in terms of the evidence. So that's half the battle, is just figuring out what's relevant to the mandate of this investigation. So we're able to focus on only the documents are relevant instead of going through everything irrelevant, and that provides better output. Then we're able to meaningfully collect evidence and relate it to the allegations and spend time in that rather than this is relevant, this isn't, isn't. I think what's really important to note, though, and that's just one example of investigations, is even if we're using it for recruitment or compensation or grievance handling, it never can replace the human element of relationships. And that's really central to our firm, is how do we develop these relationships. So what we utilize it for is to spend more time on relationships and less time in tasks that can be streamlined.
I really like that. And I've heard others say similar things. So I'm going to take you back for just a second. You mentioned you use Notebook LM to look across hundreds of documents. I use it as well, not for the same purpose, different purpose. But what I like about Notebook LM is it hallucinates much less because it cites references. And within it, you can click on the cited reference and go right to the document that it's pulling something from, and you can read it and read it in context. So it really helps with the synthesis process. For note-taking, how do you do note-taking? And specifically, there's all sorts of recorders like Otter and Zoom recording, etc. When we're talking like this, but if you're talking face-to-face, how do you do that? What recorder do you use?
Yeah, such a great question, and I'm playing around with it a little bit. And there's two ways that I'm playing. One is it's called Crisp, which it's a bit hit and miss. I would say that we're not committed to it quite yet. And the other is just to simply record and then upload that recording, and then it will do the transcription for you. It will do the summary for you. So we're finding that to be the most effective. Is just use your phone to record it and then upload it.
Is there a particular app on your phone that you use to record it?
No, just your regular. I have a Samsung, not an Apple phone. So just your regular recorder on your phone. It works really well. So it's really just a matter of uploading that. And I do find that those in-person conversations are even more important for being present and for not note taking, because that's where you can that's the magic of relationships.
Yeah. I'm sorry to get geeky with you here, but so on your phone, you turn on a recorder. What specific app is that? How do you upload it? And what do you use to turn that into a transcript that you can further analyze?
You can use Fireflies. So you can upload it to Fireflies as an audio as an audio file, and then it will transcribe it for you, and it will also summarize it.
Terrific. So it sounds like you use Fireflies when you're doing a meeting over Zoom or whatever, Teams, etc. But when you're in person, you record it on your iPhone, upload it into Fireflies as well. Same process: transcribe, summarize, etc.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can also use Fireflies for conflict detection. You can use it for sales pitch. You can use it for a variety of reasons. It will create to-do lists for you. It's really the functionality is quite fascinating.
Talk to me about conflict detection.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, it will outline the points in the conversation where two people aren't agreeing in a conversation. And so it provides helpful information on this is something you might need to talk more about, circle back on, but also how might you approach this differently in your next conversation. So it really enhances your skill set by detecting, okay, these people aren't quite aligned. So when we speak again, how do we talk about this in a way where we can find alignment?
I like how you said it enhances your skill sets. Certainly the use of AI unto itself is a skill set we need to develop. But subtly, or not so subtly, it's helping us get better in other ways. So can you think of other examples besides this kind of micro coaching on conflict detection that AI is making you stronger?
Yeah, labor relations comes to mind, and handling grievances and your responses are always really important. The way in which you respond to a grievance has massive implications. And I think the magic in labor relations is you can have the most well written grievance, and AI can help you to write that grievance so long as you're applying your professional knowledge. Because if you don't have that professional knowledge, the output it won't be a great response. It won't be a great grievance response. But what I'm finding is that as I'm leveraging AI to create this amazing product, if the organization has a negative relationship with the union, it doesn't matter how great that product is. And so, really working with organizations on how do you bring the union along in your journey? How do you develop a positive relationship? What does that culture and environment look like? Has become really central to our consulting strategy, because it isn't just about the well written grievance, it's about how the union might react to it and the interpretation and the relations that you have so that the grievance is resolved effectively.
Got it. So are you do you first do the grievance and then you feed it back in and you say, how might this affect our relations, or based on the last 10 conversations? Tactically, walk me through that.
Yeah, I would say that the processes are mutually exclusive. So the way in which we utilize AI is really from a technical, this is the grievance, these are the documents, what will formulate our response, this is the collective agreement, what articles are we going to reference that support our position, what is some case law around this. So very, very technical. And then the relationship building part, we don't utilize AI to determine how will this land. I think that's where we use humans and emotion and just intuition and the skills that we have as HR professionals and the experience that we have to say, this isn't going to land well. This great response, so well written, but the union's going to react negatively. We're very, very far apart. So advising the client, before you deliver this response, meet with the union, set out what they can expect, ask if they have any questions. Perhaps you can come to a solution before this grievance is even delivered. So I think that's the magic, is anticipating human reaction and getting ahead of it.
So if I can summarize what I think I heard you say, AI helps us do the technical parts,
Mm-hmm.
aligning up with the elements of the agreements, the particulars of the grievance, etc., so that what we're presenting or discussing, we can prepare that quicker. Then we step back and we do the human part.
Yes.
Whereas before, maybe we were so pressed to get the work done, maybe
Yes.
pre AI or before we learned to use it well, we didn't have time for that more human part, or that value add that's
100%.
based on 20 years of professional experience. We've done this before, or the collective knowledge of the leaders on that project
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very
between you
much
and the
so.
client.
And I could
Okay.
say that for really any topic that's part of our service delivery is we have, what we're seeing is that we're not spending less time on the work. We're spending the same amount of time. The way we spend that time, though, is much more meaningful and deliberate.
And that's something that you and I chatted about in advance, was in a
Yeah.
world often in HR consulting, we bill by
Mm-hmm.
the hour. So
Mm-hmm.
if AI is speeding up the work that we do to prepare for a project, gosh, does that mean we're billing less hours? And you countered smartly with, Craig, it's still taking about the same amount of time to deliver, but we're adding more value on top of it. Did I
Yeah. Yeah.
summarize what you said well, or what would you like to add to that?
No, bang on, Craig.
Okay.
It couldn't be more true. But and to give you an example of that, recruitment can be time consuming. Recruitment in determining the top candidates to present to the client. We traditionally in the past have gotten so boggled down with the interview process that what we present to our client is really just, here are the resumes, here are the names. And I think now we're able to provide really comprehensive summary documents to present the candidates that truly showcase their strengths, their weaknesses, their areas of opportunity, and everything in between. And so that product that we deliver to the client, we were able to spend more time on the output rather than the administration of getting there. So not less time, but better output.
Got it. Not less time, better output. I think that's a great place to end. I like to say we use AI to amplify our impact, and it sounds like that's what you've been describing throughout this discussion on how do we leverage AI in HR consulting.
Mhm.
Katie, it's been a pleasure to speak with you today. If somebody heard something that resonated with them or they'd like to discuss further with you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think sending me an email at katie@pivothr.ca or reaching out to me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to chat about the ways that we use it and the ways that we avoid it, because sometimes that's just as important. So please, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out if you wanted to chat.
Katie, that's a whole nother podcast, how we avoid using HR. So, but
Yes.
we'll leave that for another recording. Anyway, Katie, it's been a pleasure having you as a guest today. I'll include your contact information underneath the this episode and in the notes. And I really enjoyed our conversation. I wish we had time for more, but I think this was a great start. And thank you for
Thank
being
you.
an energetic guest today.
Thank you so much. Great to speak with you.
Okay, thanks. Bye bye.